Hello, I'm Michael Munnick, lecturer in social science theories and methods at Cardiff University in the School of History, Archaeology, and Religion, and I'm the admissions tutor for Religion and Theology here. I'm glad to talk to you today. I'm sorry the circumstances are such that we can't be meeting in person to talk, but we hope that we'll be able to return to that normal pattern soon. In the meantime, you're coming from my home, and I'm here to talk to you a bit about the program that we have and the study that we do, in the hopes that will help you making your decisions about what goes on for you in the next 3, perhaps 4 years when you set your decisions for your study. So the image that I have brought up to begin with is from Llandaff Cathedral, which is the old cathedral here in Cardiff in Wales. It's an old building, an important building, such that when Cardiff wasn't really turning up on maps of Wales, you would see Llandaff. And that indicates, I think, for one thing, the presence that religion used to have in society as an important site that was worth recording. It also shows, I think, how religion fits well with other schemes. And for example, if you think about our school of history, archaeology, and religion, these different disciplines are unfolded in this building. It is old, and it reflects, as it grows, the changes that Christianity itself has undergone over 2,000 years. So colleagues who look at the development of the religion, both in the Middle East, where it began, and its global spread, can see some of those changes reflected in how the building is matured. Our colleagues, meanwhile, in archaeology are interested in looking at the changes of the people living in Britain over thousands of years, and so they can look for evidence and traces of that right on this site, including, for example, Tylo's Well, which is a well that was connected with the acts of an early saint in the Welsh Christian tradition. Thinking more recently about it, in the center is a statue of Christ called Majestus that's up on this large ark. That is a recent construction because the building was actually destroyed in the Second World War. There was a bomb that landed on the roof and took out a large part of the choir. Nonetheless, reconstruction efforts began soon after the war, and this was built as a sign of hope for peace and prosperity in the future. So I think that there's something in this building that speaks to the interests of our colleagues in ancient history, in archaeology, in modern history, where people might be looking at things such as the Second World War in Britain globally. And it also speaks to just religious values in general and how we can discuss, for example, the intermingling of cultures. The statue was created by a Jewish sculptor, and so you have this connection between a Jewish art producer and a Christian house of worship, and thinking about how these different elements combine. These are the kinds of fruitful conversations you can have if you study with us. And the subject here, as we teach it at Cardiff, really takes you from the ancient to the very, very modern. You could be studying the text of the Mahabharata, which is an old Hindu text and poem. You could read it even in its original Sanskrit. We can teach you the Sanskrit language that allows you to read these texts. Meanwhile, fast forward to the very immediate future, and you can be thinking about news reports concerning the place of Islamic law in Britain's legal composition for stories that have been coming up just within the last couple of months. For example, the role that Islamic marriages have in terms of their legal binding quality for marriages in Britain. From ancient textual studies to modern sociological studies, these are the range of things that we offer here at Cardiff University. But you may find that you've in a situation where something like, I like to talk about the irascible uncle who meets you at the dinner table. Perhaps it's Christmas dinner and the families get together from far away, and they say, so what are you studying at university? And you say, oh, I'm doing humanities. And you get this kind of rising intonation that comes in their voice, humanities, religious studies, theology. What's behind that tone of voice, is what it really is the sense that people are curious, what's the point of studying humanities? And why would you want to look at religion? You're not going to get a job. This is the very pragmatic approach that some people may take to it. So, well, there is an answer. We say, what are the humanities? What is it that we're thinking of? Basically, it's the study of the human. Okay, that's simple. But what does that mean? What does it mean to study what it means to be human? Well, what we look at, we say it's the study of everything that human beings have left behind and they currently do. So it is that ancient history and the traces, and it is the modern practices that we do today. It includes tangible and intangible things. stone tools, philosophical concepts such as ethics. It is the things that we are about as people that inform our decision making and give us the life that we have. And I would say that there's no way that this kind of study could be marginal or obscure. In fact, it's what's going to help you make sense of all the rest of the elements of your life. If you think even about the situation we're in right now, these exceptional circumstances with the coronavirus, thinking about our values and the patterns that we've built up in our life that give us the space that we're in, studying humanities equips you for these kinds of things. So you've got through the first hurdle. This irascible uncle of yours has said, okay, so you're studying religion then. Well, tell me, which religion is best? You know, there's a somewhat challenging quality to that. And it's an opportunity maybe for you to fall into some traps when you say, oh, it's this and this. But what about, if you're interested in argument, that's fine. And there's lots of space to learn to do that effectively here at university. But we will say that the question of which is best is not a scientific question. If you were in physics and they asked you which molecule was best, what would you say? You said oxygen because it helps us to breathe. What about hydrogen that connects with oxygen to give us water to drink? You know, it's kind of an irrelevant question because whether you like it best or not, all of them are necessary to create the life that we have around us. Behind that question, which is best, is a value judgment. And though we're going to give you some tools to help inform your judgment of things, we try to step away from a simple right, wrong, good, bad, this or that approach. So we're thinking about the area of truths, which is something that religion is often trading in. What is true? What is good? We note that we're not here explicitly to defend one particular faith position. We are not a confessional program. We study it as an object of science. And so we think about religion as something that human beings do and that has social meaning for their life. And by looking at their activity, we say that sometimes it's their activity that speaks to us about their values and their impulses behind that. We also say, and I believe as a qualitative researcher, that we can ask people questions about what it is they do. They can give us answers, and that is meaningful for us in coming to some understanding about what is important to them and what drives the decisions they make in their life. So we're not about saying which religions are true or false. We're not about saying which religions are better or worse. What instead we're looking at is saying, what is this religion about? How has it influenced human decisions over time? And what is it doing with people's lives today? And that has a lot of current value. So if we think about the program of study that we offer here at Cardiff, it is a 3-year scheme in general for the undergraduate degree. We do both joint honors and single honors. We also have colleagues down a few floors from us in the John Purcell building where you'll be doing a lot of your studies. Colleagues in philosophy, if you're interested in ethics, often a joint honors degree in religion and ethics can be very valuable. But I'll tell you about the shape of our program at least, beginning in year 1. There's a module called Origins and Legacies of the Modern World. This is a core module, so joint honors, single honors, everyone needs to take this. It is worth what we call 20 credits out of 120 credits you'll do over the year, and it takes place in the autumn semester when you first arrived. It includes a small introduction to several different religious traditions, and it does what it says on the tin. We'll spend some time with the origins of this tradition, how it began, where it began, what its basic doctrine is, who the leading figures are. And then we also look at the legacies of it. So going forward to now, what is salient about Buddhism today, about Judaism today? So we look at the beginnings and the current situation for various religious traditions. We also have seminars built into this module, which will teach you some of the really important skills for how to do research at the university level, how to make use of the library and find sources. Once you've found them, how do you read them to get the argument out of them? Once you've read to get the argument out of them, how do you compose your notes that you can build your own argument that you might do in an essay? So the seminars in this module are very practically focused on bringing you up to speed on the kinds of skills that are expected of you as a university undergraduate student. Now, on top of that, there's a module called Themes and Issues in the Study of Religion, and this module is required for single honors students. For joint honors students, there's a possibility that you don't need to take it. I'll tell you why in a moment. As I mentioned, there are different credits that are a part of it. You have 120 credits in your year. 60 of them would be in religion, and 60 of them would be in the subject that you're doing a joint honors with. So I'll mention in a moment why this is not exactly core, but we do recommend it, because this module allows you then to think not about specific religious traditions, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, how do they work, but more about how they start to fit in the study of religion as a whole. And so we might look at a theme such as a period of time, late antiquity. What was happening in there? This is a moment of the crystallization of Christianity, but it's also the beginnings and the rise of Islam, and there are other traditions happening in that particular part of the world that rose and fell and haven't continued to the present day. So you can look at a period and a region. There's also the opportunity to look at religion through something like the digital, which is what I teach. I teach several sessions on online religion and what that shows us about the religious traditions themselves and about the people who follow it, and about how digital changes are affecting broader social life and what that means for religious life in general. Alongside of that, there are modules you can take. We call them our Theology Modules, and they are taught in part by affiliate members at our university with two different colleges, the St. Patterns Institute and the South Wales Baptist College. And they contribute to teaching about the story of Christianity and the introduction to the Bible. The first we might think of as more about the tradition itself, about its history, its development, and its people. Introduction to the Bible is a textual course looking at the text of the Bible itself and how we study documents and read them as critical scholars. Finally, we have the opportunity within our program to take scriptural languages. And I mentioned earlier about studying Sanskrit. It's just one of several languages that old scriptural religious texts are written in, and we want to give you the opportunity to read those in their own language. So we'll teach you some of these languages over the course of the year, and you would do an autumn and a spring semester version of that. So that combines to 40 credits of your degree. We want to make it possible so that if you are a joint honor student, you could still take a scriptural language in your first year, in which case you would take the Origins and Legacies module, which is core, and then you would take the two versions of scriptural language introduction, 1 and 2, and that would become the foundation of your religious side of your joint honors degree. If you don't want to take languages, we strongly encourage people to take the Themes and Issues module, but lots of things are possible, and you'll talk about that with your personal tutor when you begin your course of study. But for year 1 students who are single honors, this package comprises 120 credits, and that could be your first year of university. There is the possibility of taking school-wide modules that are designed in the School of History, Archaeology, Religion to cater to all the students in it. And they may be taught by various members of the different departments. Or it's possible, so long as they aren't overtaken by students in history or in archaeology or in ancient history, that you could take a history module, for example, to round out your degree in the first year. So that's a picture of the first year, and you can get a sense that there are different ways of approaching it. There are texts and traditions, there's the sociological and the theological that comes into it. As we move you into year 2 and above, we note that there is an opportunity to find what we call a pathway through that. You're getting a sense of what you're interested in and also what you're good at. And you can pursue those elements in a little bit more specificity. But everyone takes a module called What is Religion? And this, again, is a core module that takes place over both semesters, the whole cohort. Again, it's taught by various members of our staff, but we're all teaching about how to look at religion as a subject, who are some of the key thinkers in this, and what are some of the key approaches to it. Still looking both at foundations as well, but more specifically at the developments in the last 100 years. Thinkers such as Max Weber, Max Müller, but also Jose Casanova and Jürgen Habermas, people who have taught us about how to look at religion in the world now. Alongside that, you will have your opportunity to take on a project of your own choosing, setting a question that you are interested in and developing that with the support of one member of staff who is your supervisor. You'll also be in small study groups where you'll learn some of the bones of how to lead your own research project, and there'll be opportunities to present on the project you're working on. And so that's the independent study of the critical translation, an opportunity to think about what interests you and start to learn how to lead your own research project, build a bibliography, and see it through to the finish. And that's a good training for the dissertation that you'll be doing in your 3rd and final year. Alongside those modules, then there are other free choice modules that you can take from a variety of different pathways, some that are textual based, some that are theological and ethically driven, some that are looking at the study of religions around the world, all that kind of thing. There is also the opportunity to continue your study of languages, the language you've chosen initially, or even picking up, if you're interested, a second language if that's interesting for you. This builds you towards the third year, unless you do a year of study abroad, which we hope will be possible and indeed supported in the new times we're looking at. We need to look at the disruptions to these programs and how our universities can share and collaborate in next year and going forward. But we do have currently a year of study abroad program with partnerships that students can take. And that makes your three-year degree a four-year degree, which you'd take between years 2 and 3. You'd come back for your third and final year. Here, it's still 120 credits that you're doing, but you will do fewer modules and they'll be denser and longer and a little more demanding, but we're building you so that you're capable of doing it. So in third year, you will choose 3 modules at 30 credits apiece, again, following some of the pathways that you've been pursuing, such as world religions, such as ethics, such as issues of a sociological nature. Alongside that, you will do a dissertation or a critical translation. Once again, with the support of a supervisor, we do want you to have the opportunity to pursue a question of your own, things that may not be reflected in the courses that are in front of you, or things that you want to study in a deeper way. This is really valuable if you were to, for example, to go on and pursue postgraduate study, which we encourage students to do. There are opportunities to do that here at Cardiff. We have an MA Islam in Contemporary Britain. And on top of that, there is also a Jameel Scholarship Program. But for those who don't, there's still a real value, for example, in doing a dissertation, learning to come up with your own project, see it through. We talk about transferable skills and employability and how this connects with work you might do when you finish your degree. If we think back to that irascible uncle and the questions about the value of a humanities degree, we do note that humanities are really valuable for being critical and alert students of what's going on around you. And if you're in any kind of a workplace, having analytical skills, having writing communication skills, having independence to set a question and figure out the steps to see it through, this can be really valuable for you and what you're doing. And indeed, scholar David Nichols did just a survey of history graduates in Britain, the kind of careers they went on to, and he notes they've been remarkably successful in reaching sometimes the top of their chosen careers. You can think about people such as Gordon Brown, actor Sacha Baron Cohen, the entrepreneur Anita Roddick, who started The Body Shop. These were all people who had history degrees to begin with. And so they've moved from there to places that don't really resemble the history studies they might have done, but nonetheless they're taking the skills they've developed in there and applied them elsewhere. I should note that religious studies students in particular can also do quite well. Students who've gone on not just to further study, but also to roles such as journalism and The Big Issue, people working in spiritual care for cancer hospices, and you could even win an Academy Award. Joanna Natasagara, who was the producer for a pair of documentaries which were nominated for Oscars, and she won the Oscar for a documentary called The White Helmets. She was an undergraduate of Religion and Theology here at Cardiff University. I'm not saying that you come to Cardiff and the goal can be to win an Oscar, but it's not to say that if you were to study at Cardiff in Religion and Theology, you couldn't win an Oscar. The fact that it's been done, it's possible, and we hope for the best success for all of our students. But there are general skills that one develops on this, things that are valued in any kind of workplace. The analytical and problem-solving skills we talk about, as well as intellectual maturity that comes from spending time reading, thinking, having your ideas tested by the people around you, by your lecturers, by the support staff, and by the other students around you. And you'll have opportunities over the course of your degree to build those skills up and to also nurture them in others through things such as student mentorship programs or working on the student staff panel, where you take an active role with members of academic staff in administering, seeing to problems, fixing them, finding solutions, and feeding back, representing your students as they look to getting the best experience of their studies possible. That's really important in this year right now. We're all being very attentive to how we're serving our students. We want to keep doing that, regardless of whether we're in lockdown conditions or not, finding the best ways that we can support our students. And I think it's one thing that the staff in religion and theology in the School of History, Archaeology and Religion and at university overall have shown is their real commitment to making sure that the students have the most positive and successful experience they can, whatever the circumstances may be. I'm happy to talk about this more with you, so please do get in touch and consider your study here at Cardiff for the next 3 years.